My name is Mackenzie, and this is my YouTube channel, Autistic Musings, where we talk about all things autistic. Now, welcome if you're a new viewer and you're here for your loved one, your friend, or you're autistic yourself. And if you're a returning viewer, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. So, autism, it means my brain works differently. What does that mean? So, during the developmental process, my brain decided to take a different route of development. It decided not to prune a lot of neurons. It decided not to connect things together in a more strong way by pruning those neurons. So that means my brain works differently. I won't go over too in depth about what that means because we'll be here all day. Now, this difference in my brain shapes my personality. It does. I have an intense like for things because of this and the way my brain works. If you hear any noise, it's because this dang cat is in the garage with me and it is now biting my foot and messing with stuff. Please ignore it. Anyway, so my brain works differently. It does shape my behavior, somewhat of my personality, the way I think, the way I do things. It affects all that. It affects definitely the way I experience the world. This is important for the next part and what I'm going to tell you. So, there is this new theory going on based on a lot of different studies around autistic people and our cognitive empathy skills. The theory is called the double empathy problem. What is that? I'll go into what the studies are about because this will make the context for this title make more sense. So, these studies have been doing something most studies in the past haven't done, is test autistic people's cognitive empathy, which is reading somebody else's emotions without them telling you directly and taking on their perspective. They've been testing our ability to do this with other autistic people. And apparently we have not as much of a difficulty as we do when we're trying to do this with typical developing brain people. That didn't make sense. But anyway, people with a typical developing brain, when we communicate with this person, these people, there tends to be issues and Hey, this is the important part of these studies. They tested our ability to communicate with other autistic people, and we did way better than we typically do with typical developing people. Then they didn't just test us. They tested the typical developing people on their ability to read our emotions and take on our perspective. And you know what? They were just as bad as us as doing that with them. They had difficulty. So they had difficulty reading our emotions and taking on our perspective. So it's not just on our end. It's not that we're deficient. It's that, oh my God, this is what the double empathy problem theorizes. It is not the autistic person's deficiency in cognitive thinking. It is a communication issue. Boom. What do they mean? So people that experience the world differently, great differences in the way we experience the world. When that happens, the completely different sensory experience that autistic people have and the way we experience the world is different because our brains developed in a different way than typical people's brains. And it affects the way we experience the world, definitely. There's all kinds of things, if you go through my videos, where it's definitely different from a typical person. And this great difference between the way we experience the world and the way a typical person experiences the world, it makes us struggle a bit to communicate with each other. It makes it more difficult for us to read each other's emotions and take on each other's perspective because it's a communication issue. This means when people from greatly different contexts and have different ways of experiencing the world, they have more difficulty communicating with each other. There's going to be more misunderstandings, there's going to be more misreading of emotions, and a struggle to take on each other's perspective. This has already been proven in communication studies. Wow. So this double empathy problem theory, it's a theory right now. I think it's going to be proven to be completely true. Anyway, this idea that it's not the autistic person, this theory, I'm using the wrong word, that it's not the autistic person, but both parties, the typical developing person and the autistic person, that need more effort and put in more work in order to understand these two different experiences and the way of seeing the world. Like, it's going to take more work. That's the rule of communication. It's not like a one-way street where I have to do all the work or the other person has to do all the work. Both people have to work to understand each other and understand the other person's emotions. I thought this was really cool. I think this should definitely be taken into account in treatment of autistic people. Thank you for joining me on Autistic Musings today. And if you liked this topic and you'd like to hear more, please post in the comments section. I welcome the feedback. And if you'd like to see more of my content, please subscribe, like, and share.